It's great to meet you all. I know we did a quick introduction before the recording started, but I'm Richard. I'm currently a lecturer with Dublin Business School, and I thought it might be a great idea to have a chat with some people who were covered by the 1G visa at the moment, just from the point of view of, in my experience, there's a lot of very talented, very eager, very, very hardworking people who are on the visa who maybe, well, my view is that they don't. Other people might argue it, but I think often don't get a good chance to actually demonstrate the full range of skills that they had. And so I'm kind of going through ways of trying to identify how maybe there's some way to bring to raise the profile of the 1G visa, just so people can understand what's out there and who you guys are, in other words. Because from my point of view, one of the pleasures I have in doing what I do is meeting talented people who are all ambitious and looking forward to getting on with their careers and the rest of their lives and getting all the experience they can and so on. So I'm just delighted to be talking to you guys. So what I would like to do first, if it's okay with everybody, is just in terms of getting a little bit of background. I might go around to each one of you in turn, and just if you could give me like whatever you have in terms of your background, where you're from, obviously, your education background as well, before you came to Ireland. So what skills you came to Ireland with, because I think that's something that seems to be missed all the time with the 1G visa holders in particular, that a lot of you already have 2, 3, 4, 5 years of work experience before you decide to go and do the study. So if you have that, great. If you don't, it's not a good, bad, or indifferent. Your studies in Ireland and pretty much anything else you want to throw in for that, from that point of view. Is that okay? I kind of, on the screen in front of me, it kind of starts in the top left and goes around. So I'm going to start in the top left, and so it's Kushaku. Sorry, I meant to say Kushaka. Not
you can just call me Kusa in short.
Kusa, much better.
KUSA.
Yes, Kusa.
Yeah.
How are you?
Can you see me?
Nope.
No, you can't see me.
No, your camera has stayed off the whole time.
All right. I think because of this, I have a problem with my camera, but I will try to get it on while I'm still talking.
Yes, good.
I hope I will get it while we're still online. My name is Kusa and my surname is Chimbe. I came to Ireland and because I wanted to study as well as, progress in my career as someone who is studying, say, because at that time I was very interested in background system IT support. And because of that, I started out as a humanities student. I had already graduated from my country, which is Malawi.
Yeah.
I had graduated as a humanities student, and I was looking to have a background in IT because I was working in a call center where I was able to actually help customers, but I was also able to troubleshoot some IT problems and issues without actually having gone through any form of training. So because I was very interested in that and I was helping out my colleagues in the call center, I thought I would actually try it out to actually just get a certificate or certified in computing. So because I attended a certain meeting within the company that I was working for at that time, I was actually asked to be a trainer of trainers for the new billing system that was being introduced at that time. So being that it was a telecommunications company and I was working in the call center, I was the only one out of the call center that actually had the opportunity to teach my fellow colleagues about the system, but as well as work with the IT guys where they were introducing the system. At the same time, I was also sometimes up front dealing with customers. So with that, I knew that if I wanted to get far in the field, even though I have a humanities background, I could always get certified. So I thought I would just, come to Ireland and do that. So I came in Ireland and I started out with a bachelor's in communication, sorry, in IT. And after I had finished and graduated, I got a stamp, and that stamp is stamp 1. And that is, say, not the 1G, but stamp 1, where I do not have an employer yet, but that employer would have to consider sponsorship on my account, because it's different that I do not get the work. I do not get to work first without actually having to have an employer who would do that. And it is unfortunate that the last time that I got employed, my previous employer decided not to continue with my contract, and it was terminated. And that was also within the deadlines of 4 months, because I was given the permission to actually look for an employer within 4 months. And that was in 2019. And this was, I get the employer first to get the contract done. So I had the employer, and I got the right of permission, I think in September end, and I actually got the job by the 8th of October. And by the time because it was just a 4 month deadline, I didn't think that I would get my contract would be terminated prematurely, because my probation had not even gone even half the time. So given the deadline that I was given, which was just 4 months to acquire that, for me, and the termination just didn't sit well with my aspirations to actually, grow in the IT field. So in that sense, I have been back and forth trying to get the permit renewed all the time. So besides looking for a job and employers asking for my status and being told, like last week I had 2 interviews, and all of them came back to me at the same time, at the same day, within 30 minutes of each other, saying that they're not looking for anyone with stamp 1, they're actually looking for stamp 4, even big companies. So I was a bit like, okay, so if I prepare for these interviews, it's time that I'm sitting for these interviews, and getting a foot in the door is hard enough as it is. If someone says that they're not looking for someone with stamp 4, they're not looking for someone with stamp 1. So in my case, I have to find an employer first before the permit is actually actualized. And that has to be done by the employer. So it has been a bit like, okay, so if I want to grow in this field and everything else that is being put forward, like I have the permission and I'm proud that I have the permission, but if I do not get like a foot in the door, when like you get to the second phase of the interview, they're telling you that, okay, this part only, we have to take it out. So I have,
Okay.
yeah.
And do you think that's down to a lack of knowledge of the stamp 1G?
I have thought about it, but every time that I have been put, like say, in front of a panel or someone else is asking me about it, when I explain it, it's always about, okay, unfortunately, we're looking for someone with stamp 4. So it's almost like, even though you get a foot in the door, it's like you get shut down before you go to the next phase, because they already have the particular candidates that they're already looking for. So it has been like, I don't know if it's lack of knowledge or it's just because since employers want what they want, you can't push forward, but you can always try for the next interview if the employer is looking for someone with your qualifications.
Sure.
So yeah, so with that, having that, it was 2019 now, my experience is also like wavering in between, because I have to, so maybe it's also a matter of experience and everything else are being put together like that with the time passing. And that's my story anyway.
Okay. Look, I will come back around, but I want to just introduce everybody first. So thank you very much for that. Next, Samuel, you're on my top right in my picture.
Okay.
So
Okay.
again, brief introduction and background.
Okay.
Shoot
Okay,
away.
brief introduction before we get into the conversation. Is it?
Yes, please.
Okay. So my name is Samuel Yakura. I was born in Nigeria, and I came to Ireland in 2018 to further my studies and, create sort of, better opportunities for myself. I have a background in building engineering. I finished from one of the top universities in Nigeria, and after college, I had about 2 years work experience with one of the construction firms in the country's capital, where I worked as both an intern for 6 months during my degree, and then afterwards, they were, I suppose, impressed with my work ethic and my performance during those 6 months, and then they requested that I come back and work with them for another about 18 months before I came in for my master's. Now, the major reason why, I wanted to, further my studies was, um, I've really been in love with construction, and most of my background is a mix of everything. It's a mix of design, construction, management, and structures. But I knew that, out here in the West, construction is sort of advancing faster than it is in Africa. So I wanted to be able to position myself, in a way that I am, visible, and I have better opportunities to work with these companies that are sort of leading, what construction should look like globally. And so I came in for my master's. Now, obviously, I had done my research, about the opportunity that Ireland, presents for graduates who want to come in, who have, a bit of, professional background and then want to further their studies. So that was sort of the premise upon which I came here. And then I went to WIT, where I finished my master's in construction project management, just to sort of, solidify that background that I have. And yeah, I suppose that is sort of the just a brief, introduction
Great.
to what my background looks like. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. And serious question. Did you fall in love with Blaz?
With who?
With Blaz down in Waterford. You know the blah, the bread roll, the special bread roll that I fell in love with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
I fell in love with them. The best bread in the world.
Honestly, do you know that for, I suppose, the first couple of months, I didn't know a lot of the names of some of the the meals there. It took me a while, but yeah. Eventually.
There you go. A lot of my trouble started with sausage blaz down in Waterford, but that's another day's story.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
Now, bottom right on my screen then is Anushri. Hi.
Hi, Richard. So it's after 1 year that we are talking to each other.
That's it,
now.
yeah. So
I remember coming to your classes early in the morning.
That's it, yeah.
So my name is Anushri Gupta, and I was born in India. And I completed my bachelor's in commerce from India. My background is specifically in accountancy and finance. So before coming here in Ireland, I was working as a credit analyst in a bank in India. And before working in a bank, I completed 3 years of training under a chartered accountant, because I was doing this competitive exam for CA, which is conducted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And it has a very difficult passing rate of only 3%. So it's like if 100 students are sitting, only 3 students are clearing. So it takes a little bit time. So while I was preparing for the examinations, I got a job in the bank. So I thought it would be good to earn some money and some experience as well. So I started working. And the thing about working in India is there's no end. Like you go to office on 9 a.m. and there's like no looking back. Sometimes you're coming at 10 p.m. Sometimes you're coming at 11. So the working hours are very intense. So it became really hard to complete my education, which I was aspiring for. But at certain point of time, when it came about our promotions and our appraisals, so my boss said that you don't have a master's degree, so we cannot put you at par with other credit analysts. So that thing really hit me, and I thought that I need my master's degree. So I came to Ireland to get a master's degree because the program was of 1 year and I didn't have that much time in hand. So I thought that it would be a good option. So yeah, I have like experience of 5 years in accountancy and finance. And I have pretty much worked with all sorts of companies, FMCG, taxation, government and private companies. So I have pretty good knowledge, but the thing is, here when I apply for graduate roles, I get rejected because I have that much experience. And when I apply for the permanent positions, the 1G visa problem comes into the picture. So it's kind of a loop that somewhere you are overqualified and somewhere you are less qualified because of your visa status. So if something is about the skills, we can nurture it, we can learn it. But when something comes about the laws and the maybe because the recruiters are unaware of something, it's like out of our hands. We cannot do anything rather than just trying.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my story.
Good stuff. Thank you. And Harshita, thank you. I hope I'm saying that right, am I?
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, I'm
Hi.
Harshita. I'm from India. I finished my master's in information systems management at NUI in June last year. And prior to this, I worked at Accenture India for 3 years as a software analyst. And I developed a skill set of DevOps and SAP ABAP when I worked at Accenture. So gaining a broad holistic experience at Accenture on different technologies, different tools that we use there. I was interested to step into the business side of these technologies because talking to clients, gathering requirements, basically getting these businesses up and running was something that I found my niche interest in. So that's how I applied for masters at NUIG in 2019. And the reason I chose to come to Ireland was because, at that time, we kind of heard that there was a lot of increase in the job market, increase in the number of opportunities, a lot of, major companies' headquarters were actually in Ireland, like Google, Facebook. Most of them are actually in Ireland. So that's how I decided, okay, Ireland might be the best place to actually come and do my master's and then pursue my passion for talking about business and upcoming technologies. Yeah. And after I finished my master's, I started applying for jobs in product management. So product management is sort of a blend of, it's like the center point between business, design, and technology. And I thought I could leverage the business knowledge that I gained while doing my master's at NUIG and also my technical background that I have. And so far, I am applying to the basic and junior roles in product management, like associate product manager or product analyst, for starters. And even for that, I'm not able to cross the first round because, basically because of my stamp issue.
Okay. Okay. And so thank you. First and foremost, thank you everyone for that. And I think the obvious place to start our conversation or continue it is around the stamp issue. And so you've all given me some experience so far that you've had of it, whereby it seems to have been it seems to be a roadblock to actually getting a particular type of job. And is it fed back to you as, sorry, the 1G is not something that we're interested in, or is that just your perception? Anyone can take that on if they want. By the way, Kusa, we can now see you. Your camera's on.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. Am I starting to answer the question?
Well, you might as well now. Seeing as I called you out as we started there. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that'd be great.
Okay. So the question again, please bring it back.
I'm just wondering, is it, again, I'm as much as anything else, I'm trying to understand the background, to be honest with you. It literally was something I was aware of, but obviously I'm not in your shoes. From that point of view. So I'm just wondering, is it the visa particularly that appears to be coming up as an issue, or is there other issues that are coming up as well, just from your own point of view?
Well, just before I say, it was I had 3 interviews last week, and he specifically told me the same thing, that they're not looking for anyone with stamp 1. And
Okay.
that was actually 2 of them I was supposed to go. That was second phase of the interview. So sometimes I would say, I'm not saying that I can, like, sometimes you can be, maybe you can fail the interview. There are phrases that some of them I haven't done well, but when you go through the other interviews and you go through a certain phase, and then they tell you that, you know what, we're looking for someone with a stamp 4, or someone who actually would not be requiring some sort of sponsorship. So for me, it has specifically been my kind of stamp that is
Okay.
not being,
Yeah.
I guess, like, for them, they're looking for someone with a different stamp. So because of the deadline that I have, and it's like, well, I think maybe I might go over the deadline, or it's like the deadline is the deadline. I'm not allowed anymore to actually renew my
Yeah.
permit again. So having gone through all that, for me, I would say maybe it's because they just saying they don't want a certain stamp. So that's why
Yeah.
I think I'll
Okay.
take the chance.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to also chip in as well. I think so. Just a little background: the third level graduate program was supposed to be a government initiative to help supplement those sectors in the country where they needed professionals, right? So it was a way to attract and encourage professionals from other nationalities, both non-EU and outside of EU as well, to come in, which is the reason why I believe most of us came in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what the third level graduate program does for you is it allows you study and work at the same time on a stamp 2, within limited hours. I think during school session you have just the allowance to work for 20 hours, and then maybe during holidays, and then when you're done it's 40 hours. And then when you're done with your program, you can work full time, but the duration is a 2-year period, which they give you, renewable yearly. They move you from the stamp 2 to the stamp 1G, and their expectation is you should be able to get a job, whether a graduate role or an entry level role within your profession, capped at the specified yearly remuneration.
Yeah.
I believe it's 32,000 for
I
critical
think
skills,
that's, yeah, it's
and then
somewhere around that.
30 for the general skills employers permit. So I graduated in 2019, right? So I had, obviously started looking for jobs right from, October, November. And then up until, unfortunately, the lockdown kicked in sometime March the next year, which is a different conversation. But from most of the interviews that I've had, I think one particular thing I've identified is most of the government companies are well aware of the stamp 1G, and their company policies, align very easily with the government policies. So I have colleagues of mine who have actually gotten jobs with government companies, and it's not an issue because obviously they're well in touch with the government policies, and they sort of aligned the company policies with that. So they're aware that there are graduates, who are coming into the country, who are on the stamp 1G, who are on a timeline of just 2 years to get a job. So those companies are more than willing to sponsor you once you meet, the qualifications or the requirements for that role. But where the challenge is, especially for me, was with the private companies.
Okay.
I believe there's some sort of gap in communication between, this initiative by the government and the private companies in the country. There's a gap because you have interviews with a lot of these companies and they're really excited. They look at your CV, you're very qualified, you have a qualification from the country, and then they ask, what is your status? Some of them even actually think you're a resident. They actually think you're Irish born. And then when you tell them that, oh, you came to the country, so then they're curious to know what status you're on, and you say stamp 1G. Some don't even know what stamp 1G is. Some do know, but then there's this sort of, we just prefer a stamp 4.
Right, so it's just an expressed preference then.
Yeah, sometimes it's just, Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just an preference, I suppose, because you don't have to go through the stress of having to sponsor the candidates and all of that. But there's also another gap in that, because what the government initiative allows for is both the employer and the employee to be able to sponsor, themselves. So if, for example, I got a role with the company, the employer has the discretion to either sponsor me or allow me sponsor myself and just provide the documents, the contract, and some of the little documents that I need to
Mhm.
submit. But a lot of these companies don't even know that. They're not even interested in wanting to sponsor. And then I
Yeah.
had also one very interesting experience a couple of weeks ago. I actually got a role with a very reputable company. And I passed through the screening, stage, the first interview, the PowerPoint presentation. I got the role, and then when it got to the stage for them to process my documents so they can send the final contract, I sent my stamp 1G, and they had a look at the stamp 1G, and they came back to me and said my stamp 1G is expiring in September. But I told them that I, was on the stamp 1G for 2 years. I said, yes, I graduated in 2019, which means my stamp 1G will be expiring in September. But I don't believe that should be an issue, because that's also when the graduate program was starting. I said, what the government expects is you would apply for either the critical skills or the general employer's permit 12 weeks
Absolutely.
before
Yeah.
you start the role. And they told me that their company policy doesn't allow them sponsor graduate students on the employer's permit. And that's how they receded that
Yeah.
offer. And it was
Ouch.
so heartbreaking. So there are all of these
Yeah.
bridges, that these gaps that need to be filled between the government third level graduate program and the private company policies.
Yeah.
So I think there's really a very major gap there to be
Right.
filled.
And that could be, I suppose, from my point of view, of something to maybe we could all focus in on, but maybe just making a couple of those points, because it's my background, again, this is not about me, so I'll shut up again after. But my background is I was a civil servant for about 10 years, and I worked in the department that the work permits or the employment permits come out of at one stage. And it's a process like anything else, but if the right person is available to you, it's I suppose my view is that if that person needs something to be applied for or sponsored, that's not the end of the world. But if that, it seems kind of crazy. Well, I'm not going to judge well, I am going to judge the companies. Let's take that back. I am judging them. I love you companies, but there's it's a real potential. It's potential just being, thrown away. It really is. It really is. Um, those are great insights. Um, um, Anushri or Harshita, have you anything you'd like to throw in there?
Yeah, actually, this thing happened with me that I've been applying to the companies like Google and other big fours. So there is a condition that they mentioned that they require experience of working previously in a big four company. So because I have not worked in a big four, so I try avoiding those companies, because I think working in a mid-sized firm is a pretty good deal because you get more knowledge. So when I apply, so I go through recruitment agencies like, even though there are many recruitment agencies like Hayes, Sigma, and Michael Page and everything. So when I call the recruitment consultants, they straight away tell me that, sorry, we are not working with 1G candidates because my client is only interested in working with stamp 4 candidates. So I actually had this opportunity of asking one consultant that why is it that I can sponsor myself. I just need a job. So she said that the companies actually don't want to get into the process of documentation and stuff. They know that you can sponsor yourself, but the thing is they don't want to get into the mess of documentation and everything. So that I said that's not an issue. That's a very small gesture that the company can do. If they are providing somebody an employment and I'm working full time for them, I'm like offering my skills and my knowledge. It's very little of them to do, but we cannot convince everybody. So it's
Yeah.
just like, no, they don't want to get into documentation. And then these are contract roles. So when we apply for the contract roles, like 6-month role, they don't require your 1G visa or stamp 4 visa. So they have another condition that they need a knowledge of working in Ireland. So the thing is, how are we going to get knowledge of working in Ireland if you're not going to give us an opportunity?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, there's another problem that some companies who are working with 1G candidates, they require experience of working in Ireland, which is a very, I don't know how somebody is going to have experience working in Ireland if they are on 1G
Yeah.
visa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
don't know, like, I don't expect this from
Yeah.
experienced recruiters to ask something like that. So
I
yeah,
want, yeah, I mean, what one of the things that's come out to me just in the conversation here is exactly that. I mean, it must be heartbreaking to be invited to an interview, to go through the interview, get an offer, and I mean, I'd be sure. I mean, I'm not saying you all did, but I'd be sure all of you guys put your visa status up front in your application, and that
We did, yeah.
yeah, you know, and then to have that's horrific, you know, and you've gone through that as well, Harshita, have you?
Yes, yes, I've gone through it as well. So adding to Anushri, I actually wanted to bring out the point which Anushri said, the like us contacting recruiting agencies. So I don't know, Anushri, if some recruiting agencies have actually got back to you, but to me, in my case, none of the recruiting agencies have got back to me. I
Yes,
emailed them, I've tried
I
calling
agree
them,
with
I
you.
uploaded my CV, I even messaged them on LinkedIn, but it's just that they see my message and they never really read it, or they
you
never.
have to stalk them. You have to stalk them like crazy. I do that.
Even
I'm sorry.
Richard,
if I could
Richard,
tell you one thing
Reply
on
to
that
me.
one, that's not unique to 1G visas. That unfortunately happens an awful lot with recruitment
really?
agencies. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
it's a
Because
you know,
I don't think there's any of the recruitment agencies in Ireland that I don't know,
yeah,
from Hayes
Exactly.
to, and you actually send in your CVs, you'd give them a call. You can literally see your skills match with the job description.
yeah,
And
Exactly.
you're wondering, just at least give me a call or give me a chance to to prove that I'm eligible for that role, and they don't even reach out to you.
mhm,
So it's but I think we're put in a very difficult position because it's already difficult looking for a job
Yeah.
as a citizen of a country. It's difficult, and then when you now have to deal with that difficulty, and then you have to deal with the challenge of being on the stamp 1G, and then deal with the challenge of being in a lockdown, because that's also something I wanted to raise. Those of us who graduated in 2019 and just started, applying for jobs, only got about 6 months into looking for jobs before the lockdown hit in March last year, and we're still in lockdown. So most of these companies have been more reluctant than ever to actually even employ, staff
yeah,
generally. And the government, as we've seen, has sort of, come up with initiatives to, to help people out, to make things a lot easier. But for the third level graduate program, nothing has been done because we've literally wasted over a year. And they're saying that by September, if you don't, meet the requirements, you would have to leave.
you just have to
And
go.
I
Yeah,
and we're like, so who do we speak to? Like, who is gonna be, a voice for us, or to sort of get the conversation to the right people. And I think there was a petition that was started a couple of days ago. I think over 3,500 people have sort of signed the petition now, but I really don't know how far that is going to go or how effective it will be in sort of getting to the right people, because we're really put in a very difficult position. And I mean, it's not like we have the skill set, you know.
that's
we,
that
we,
was yes,
we
that
have the skill.
that was where I
So
was
I
going to
don't
go
know.
next. Yeah, is
Yeah.
just to say to each of you just for a second. Again, one of the things I wanted to do with this was just to bring forward the talent. Just give an idea of the talent that's available. And so that was literally going to be my next question to whoever wants to start it off, and I'll ask it to all of you. But what would you bring if somebody was to give you that opportunity? If somebody was to say, right, we're willing to go with this. What would you bring, both in terms of your experience already and I suppose your attitude, whatever way you want to answer the question in that sense, but just to get a sense of your personality.
Okay. Who's studying first? I can always do the second part. The second, I can always be the
Okay,
second.
but go.
So okay, maybe I would just start. So I think one of the things that I have always developed as a personal trait, both in my career and outside of the workplace, has been my ability to learn. You know, and during my internship for about 6 months, where I served as an intern engineer with a residential construction firm, I was able to learn a lot more than people who have been in the company for 3-4 years were able to learn, just because I was willing to learn. I was willing to ask questions. And so the project manager I worked under actually called me to come work with the company once I was done from college. So I actually came back and served as an assistant site engineer and also a personal assistant to the project manager. Now, this owed to the fact that, besides just serving as a site engineer, which is site supervision, reviewing construction drawings, preparing site reports, reviewing project plans, interpreting project drawings, and all of that, he saw that, I was someone who he could rely on, and I was someone who consistently kept learning on the job. So during the about 18 months, I was able to build both technical skills as well as administrative skills in that regard. And that was the reason why I decided to, further my studies in construction project management, because site engineering just gives you more or less a technical, it tapers your focus on the technical aspect of construction, but construction project management as a whole gives you, a more holistic view of the entire project and how you sort of coordinate everyone, all of the professionals, to get the project delivered, and I was very particular about, not just wanting to deliver a project, but reducing waste in the process of construction, which is something very common in the construction industry, and that was one thing my master's gave me. So we were able to learn a lot about, pool planning, about lean principles in construction, about modern methods of construction, offsite fabrication, and, how to short lead times and all of that, how to, how to make your supply chain very efficient and things like that, so it was okay. So sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just going to say, I was just going to say, and it was experience that you gained before you even started your master's, which isn't necessarily the norm for a lot of master's graduates nowadays. They go an awful lot more go straight from undergrad straight to graduate studies and postgraduate studies. So
yeah,
that
exactly.
was the point I was just making there.
Yeah,
Brilliant. Thank you. That's great.
and that really helps you appreciate the masters a lot more, because when you're just transiting from a bachelor's to a master's, it's all in the classroom. But when you've been on the site, you've seen all of the machinery, you've seen how the process is being done to deliver this project, and you come to the classroom, it makes more sense, and you're applying also, all of the all of the other tools in terms of, softwares that we use, MS Project and things like that, AutoCAD, and so yeah. But here we are.
Exactly. So Harshit, I've seen you nodding a lot there. You seem to be agreeing with a lot of that.
Yeah, because I could relate so much to whatever Samuel was saying. So do you want me to go now?
Please, yeah, absolutely.
So before coming to Ireland, I worked at Accenture for 3 years as a software analyst. And while working there, I was primarily involved in SAP ABAP. So that was my primary technology. And then I further transitioned into DevOps tools and management. One thing that I can, I don't mean to actually boast, but I actually should do this, that, when I was working at Accenture, I had to change my technology completely from SAP ABAP to DevOps because there was a critical requirement, there was a critical skill. So I successfully demonstrated this, and this is actually there in my Accenture profile, if at all, if I get successful through any of the interviews and I want to do any background verification, is actually there, that I was able to learn a new thing within a short span of time.
Yeah.
So I can clearly say that I have strong technical experience in computers before coming to Ireland. And after I came to Ireland, I did my master's in information systems management. And while doing my master's, I've had the brilliant opportunity to work on a capstone project with a local NGO in Galway. So while working with them, I served the role as a associate product manager, where I was working under the product management in my team. And also not that it was kind of because it was a capstone project and it was an academic project. There were some times where you had to roll up your sleeves and do something out of
Absolutely.
your line to get the project rolling. So I even contributed towards that during my project. And the best part about this is this project, whatever we did, this kind of kicked off a little bit more because of COVID, because we were primarily involved in developing a social enterprise model for a charity related to mental health, and we know how important mental health in Ireland is. So earlier we were supposed to deliver the project to our client by the end of, let's say, May, June, but we could deliver kind of like a small on MVP to our client in March.
Great.
So
Great.
that's
Brilliant. Yeah.
something I'd like to bring. Yeah.
That's lovely. Anushri.
Yeah, so my field is not like related to technology or something, but it's more into numbers. So I have a very good niche for numbers. Like I enjoy working with numbers, Excel spreadsheets, and I have a like OCD for Excel spreadsheets. Like everything needs to be properly arranged. So I can say that I am a really good expert in Excel. So I have seen many jobs, they ask for advanced MS Excel, and I say like this job is made for me, but no, the visa status comes into picture again. So I would say that there was this one time when I was working under a chartered accountant, that we got an assignment. We had a client who used to maintain all their accounts, not on computer. Everything was written like traditional Indian bookkeeping system. The vouchers was on papers and the books were on handwritten and everything. So it was like thousands and thousands of vouchers, and from those vouchers we have to prepare the final financial statements. So I couldn't believe myself. We, like in a team of 5 people, we completed the entire financial statement within 10 days, and there were thousands and thousands of vouchers. So yeah, whenever I have worked on projects, I have worked wholeheartedly. And in that role, I learned about financial statements. Then in my next role, I learned reading the financial statements and drawing inferences. Like my role was to lend people money for their business, like small businesses. So we used to meet people and inquire about the business structures, and then we used to read the financial statements. So I had a pretty good experience of dealing with the customers face to face also. So it was like a whole dimensional experience, like working with financial statements, people. So it was like a qualitative and quantitative experience in total.
Excellent, excellent. And you can learn, because I learned this from some of my Indian students. I had never come across the idea of lakhs and crores before, that there's an alternative to kind of millions and billions and all that kind of stuff. So that was something that I learned from you guys. So it's always a two-way thing as well. And Kusa, same question to you.
All right. Well, I have a passion and I'm very, very interested in computers. Not only computers, but anything that has got a battery in it. If it's a mobile phone, if it's something else, I'm just interested in getting information and relating that information, or come up with ideas if you must. And most of the things, because I come from a background of education humanities, I've been trained to be a hands-on person. So most of the things that I do, some of them are out of the book, but most of them are out of my own. I just find my way around things without having problems. But I'm very passionate about security and computing. So yeah, so I did IT support here, but it was just like a month, almost a month and maybe a half. So it wasn't like really like a full-on like experience, because I didn't get to spread my wings, if you get what I mean. But most of the things that I had done before included, say, if a customer would walk in a shop, I'll be able to assist. But I was also taking care before that. That was in my country, in Malawi. where I had just been promoted within 6 months from the call center. The manager decided to promote me to billing department because I was able to actually relate with computer stuff, troubleshooting, as well as the billing system that I had talked about previously. So an introduction of this billing system meant that you had to have the knowledge and how to get it all like in a way where everyone else would be able to participate and understand. So having had a background in humanities where I was doing some sort of projects with people, on one-to-one, I didn't have a problem with that. So having those qualities like helped in a way to work with 3 different departments at one time. Because I was promoted to billing department, I was able to work with IT as well as the call center since I was coming from the call center.
Gotcha.
So for me, I'd say I'm a people's person, but I also like to, you know, it's not difficult for me to say write or communicate on paper as well as with people. I like that a lot because I don't like to be closed in and just do things on the back end, even though I love the back end a lot and the way things work. So those are my strengths that I carried forward onto the other departments. But when I came here to Ireland, I was in a position where I had to work. I know everyone else is doing it because that's how the way it is nowadays, where you have 2 jobs and you also have to balance your studies. So having had that kind of flexibility where I work 2 jobs and come to, you know, be able to pay my own way through tuition and stuff. For me, I think that is something no one else can take away from you, even though
Absolutely.
the experience of having to actually go through this kind of like some sort of category or say courts, stamp 1 and stamp whatever, but the strengths that I would bring forward would be those that would actually be, I believe diversity and has to be
Very
considered.
much.
When you say
Yeah.
diversity, you say you accommodating everything else. And this is nothing to do with race or anything. I'm just
No.
saying that it's the job process. So
I hear you. Yeah.
so if we are going through, if we have to go through all this, it's not that we cannot take, even if like it's a basic remuneration package, we can divide that and make our own sponsorship. So it's not a matter of just looking for the company to sponsor me. Give me a salary just like anyone else. I'll know what to do with it. So
Okay.
that is not an issue.
I got
But
you.
I think where the confusion is the fact that it's the processing part that actually people are not really getting aligned with. But the
Yeah.
strengths that we bring forward are that we bring diversity as well as being able to, you know, work just like everyone else, but with an extra kind of quality that actually identifies us uniquely. So
Absolutely.
I believe that
100.
given a
Absolutely.
chance.
Absolutely. And
Sorry.
I will just two other things, and I'll finish up. Firstly, thank you all. There's a very specific reason that I asked you all that question, because what you all demonstrated more than anything else, as well as your skills, obviously, is your passion. Every one of you showed an incredible amount of passion, which it was just about your areas, which was just incredible from my point of view. And so I just want to say thank you so much for participating in this. I don't know where this is going to end up, but I hope that we can maybe start something where we get a conversation started where hopefully the right people start to hear the conversation and that we can actually make a difference in this area. Because I know just on the contacts I've had over the last few days, there's a lot of people hurting out there. There's a lot of people struggling, and let's hope we can do something. So thank you so much, everybody. Thanks a lot.